Hello everyone, thank you for being here. Nice to see familiar faces. My name is Max from Connext. We are a bridge for builders. So basically we empower builders, developers to create applications that can interact with any smart contract on any chain in the most secure way. But today I would like to talk to you about the future of Web3. A Web3 that has 1,000 rollups. What? So, it all started with Ethereum, and then the first layer 2s that popped up. Finally, we managed to solve the interoperability, the scalability trilemma with the first layer 2s. Side note, Connext was the first trustless bridge to connect Optimism and Arbitrum. And then new layer 2s started to pop up, right? We had Mantle, Base, Polygon, ZKVM, Linea. And so we are getting to a state where we have more block space than we will ever probably need, or we will, that will need at least in the short term. And this is only going to increase with the, upcoming layer 3s. So rollups built on top of existing rollups that will really scale, will really create an ecosystem of hundreds and then ultimately thousands of layer 2s and layer 3s, so rollups built on top of Ethereum as a security. Which means that all of a sudden we have a very diversified ecosystem, right? A very diversified ecosystems that, with all the benefits that provides, which means like cheap block space, easy accessibility for builders and users, it also comes with trade-offs. And these trade-offs are basically divided in 3 groups. First of all, that can be summarized under the word fragmentation. What does it mean? That you're actually, by creating 1,000 rollups, you're actually fragmenting the users that can access to your applications. You're actually fragmenting the data that you can access to and the liquidity, right? Because all these elements are split across, all of a sudden, 1,000 rollups and not one single chain. In details, right, for a user experience, we are creating an extremely awful and unfriendly user experience where users will have to think about what rollup is an app deployed to and how I need to get there. For developers, for builders, all of a sudden with this fragmented ecosystem, they will have to think about how do I deploy my app onto these different layers, right? How do I manage my code base across all these different layers? And together with that, my liquidity, liquidity of tokens, the liquidity of stable coins, of the ETH is going to get fragmented and split across all these different pieces. And so here is a little bit of deep dive into these issues and some of the suggested solutions that we have so far. Let's start from the users, right? The key of everything. With the reminder that nobody really cares about the infrastructure, right? If I'm a user, all I really care about when I go on YouTube is being able to watch my cat videos, right? I don't care about which storage or servers is actually being used in the background, right? If it's going to the US, if the data is hosted in Europe, all I care is about my user experience. And so, how can a normal flow from a user who has his funds on Polygon, for example, and wants to interact with the dApp on Arbitrum, how can that ever become mainstream if the user needs to think about going to a bridge, leaving the app, going to a bridge, buying the token, buying ETH to get to be able to use it on Arbitrum, change his RPC on his wallet, right? This is really a very clunky and techy experience that is not compatible with the type of reach that we want to have for Web3. So the way that Connext is thinking about it is that we really don't want users to think about chains. We call this type of experience a chain abstracted experience. What we want to do is to enable we want to enable an experience where users only focus on the applications and not on what happens in the underlying tech. Right, so we built a toolkit basically for builders that allows these seamless experiences where an application is able to be deployed only on one chain, and just by a click, right, the user is interacting only with applications with just one click, which might be an action like deposit, LP, withdraw, whatever they want. they are able to abstract all the different steps that that enable this interaction. So the user might be holding some on optimism, for example, and they want to interact with the app on Arbitrum. And so just with one click, they are able to swap their tokens, bridge them to Arbitrum, and then deposit them into the applications, completely making the experience very seamless. So the user does not have to think about the chains, and the dApps do not have to replicate their code base across the different chains, because all they have to do is focus on one central hub and then allow these interactions from any other chains. And so this enables this type of experiences. This is Meme Finance, is one of the applications, one of the projects we're working with, where if a user wants to deposit their tokens on Polygon, for example, right, with one click, they can select any funds they have from any chain, and then immediately interact with the application and immediately enable this type of seamless experience. But this is very straightforward. I think there is a more concerning problem right now in the space, which is around liquidity. If I have my token, if you think about USDC, if you think about a token that a project might create, these tokens are getting fragmented across the different ecosystems. And so what projects are doing, they are relying on two types of bridges, two types of solutions to basically bring their tokens to these ecosystems where it might be needed. One is using the native bridges or the different rollups, and the other one is using third-party bridges like Connext, like Layer 0, like Axela, like Chainlinks, CCIP, and so on. What's the issue with that? Is that every bridge is actually creating a different silo. So every bridge that brings your token from one chain to another one is creating a different version of the token. Which means that when a user looks at the different options that they have, all of a sudden they have no idea what's going on. A liquidity pool is required to actually swap between these different versions of the tokens. So we are creating a really fragmented liquidity system that is not only not user friendly, but is also very capital inefficient. The other issue with the liquidity, once it's bridged to different chains, and again, we are talking about 1,000 places where this liquidity will be bridged, is that all the bridges, they're actually trapping the tokens with their ecosystems. When you move a token from one chain to another one, you're actually giving custody to the token to this bridge. And what it means is that if something bad happens to the bridge, right, it might be a hack, it might be a government that tells you to shut it down. It might be something bad happens to the bridge. Those tokens are locked there forever. And this is a massive issue, right? Because all of a sudden you're relying on the third party, and you are once you commit to the specific bridge, a specific ecosystem, whether it's a native bridge or a third party, you're locked with them forever. So what are all the other bridges doing? They're basically trying to create these silos, this isolated ecosystem, telling, hey, if you bridge the token with my standard, with my protocol, I'm able to bring it to the different chains, to the 1,000 rollups with no slippage, which is extremely good, in a very fast way, which is extremely good. But what they don't tell you is that they are creating silos, right? They are creating these isolated liquidity pools that are not compatible with each other. So what happened after the multi-chain issue recently, I don't know if you were aware about it, multi-chain was forced to shut down. There were major players in the Phantom ecosystem, for example. And so with their assets being no longer valid, a lot of the other bridges started to pump liquidity into that ecosystem by saying, hey, you come and use our version of the asset, our version of USDC, our version of BTC, our version of ETH, so we can win that ecosystem. And that is not only, I want to say, against the values of Web3, which is about openness and composability, but also against the interest of the users, because you're now creating these different elements that are not competing anymore on security, but are competing on who is able to pump more liquidity into the specific ecosystem. So what Connext did, we basically said, okay, there's no point in really competing with each other on who is able to get the biggest ecosystem by adding more, by bribing basically different projects. The better and best solution is actually to create a common standard, right? Something that can work for every ecosystem, that can work for every bridge, where the token issuers are again in control, in power of what is happening to their tokens. This is an Ethereum improvement proposal, friendly name XERC20, where they basically say there are 3 principles that should apply to cross-chain tokens. The first one is the token issuers should always retain control and ownership of their token contracts across the different chains. As we said, in a normal standard, the control of the tokens is given to the bridge whenever a token is moved to another chain. These token issuers should then be, once they are able to retain control of the token contracts, they are able to whitelist, to basically decide which bridges are allowed to create their tokens on a destination chain, and to set up the minting limits. So basically, how much they trust a specific bridge. So for example, if you trust the native bridges a lot, you can have you can set up unlimited minting limits from the Optimism bridge, for example, because those are the most secure ones. But and also, if you want to allow a fast liquidity to live out those systems, you might whitelist a third-party bridge like Connext, but set up some some smaller minting limits. So then you get the benefits of both sides. And then importantly, right, this can apply to every bridge and every ecosystem. And the idea is that all the bridges that have been whitelisted can then mint the same version of the tokens that are then fungible with each other. Right? You can bring a token across the different chains with 0 slippage. So like you send 1 token, you receive 1 token, and whatever path is being chosen by the user, because imagine somebody wanting to use the canonical bridge, the native bridges or layer 2s, like they will expect to end up with the same version or with the version that is usable of the token as another bridge. So they can all mint the same fungible version of the token with the rating limit specified by the token issuer. So I am kind of like limiting the exposure that I can get to every bridge, which is a security measure for the token issuers. There are already a few projects that have adopted this standard. We're doing like a work now to raise awareness about the benefits or the necessity for the token issuers or projects to really retain ownership and control over the tokens, because otherwise we're going to get into a world where tokens are trapped and are fragmented across these 1,000 rollups that are coming out. Key takeaways from this talk. It's going to be a 1,000 rollup. Like no matter what we do, we saw the same thing with tokens in 2017. Like hundreds and thousands of projects are going to spin up their own rollups. We're seeing services like AltLayer, like Conduit that allow you to spin up a new rollup with 1 click. So we are going to get to this fragmented world, and in order to actually bring some utility and bring the experience to the mainstream, these 1,000 rollups will have to provide a seamless experience. How do we achieve that? What we call chain abstraction. So the idea that you don't have to think about the chains, you don't have to think about bridging, actually bridging, buying gas and buying and switching RPC to that 1,000th rollup. And number 2, with a system that is able to unify the liquidity across the different chains without compromising on the security and without being isolated on and creating fragmentation for the ecosystem. I hope this was clear. Any questions? Any questions? 1. Questions 2. Question 3. So I'll give you another juicy tip. We just did our airdrop. It was the first cross-chain airdrop at the beginning of this month. We basically allowed people to claim their tokens, their next tokens from any chain in a very chain abstracted way. So they, without having to know where the tokens were coming from, they could claim it on their favorite chain. And so I invite you to check out our website. Maybe you might be eligible. And whether you are or not, I will invite you to build it with us, spread awareness about the XCRC20 standard, check out the xcrc20.com website. And yes, I'm happy to answer any questions later or online. Thank you.